Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar for leveraging APIs to test web testing with Katalon and LambdaTest. My name is Mersh Handa. I am the VP of Testing Services at KMS Technology and also an advisor with Katalon. And I am joined with my co-host, Sirajuddin Khan, who is the product manager at LambdaTest. Our agenda today, we're going to talk about API testing, do a quick overview of what are APIs, why do we think it's important for you to test APIs, and also talk a little bit about the trends that we see related to APIs, and again, try to emphasize the importance of them for testers in the community. In addition to that, we want to deep dive into a demo where you can see how Katalon and LambdaTest can be leveraged to perform API testing, and then wrap up with a quick summary of the advantages in Katalon for API testing, as well as open up the floor for discussions and for Sirajuddin and me to answer any questions you may have. As we go through the presentation today, please feel free to add your questions into the Q&A section that is offered to all of those attending. So before we begin talking about APIs and leveraging them to help testing primarily around automation, I wanted to give everybody who are not as familiar with this topic a quick introduction to what it is. If you were to Google APIs and look out on Wikipedia, you will get a pretty accurate definition of what APIs are. The problem with that definition, though, for most testers who are just getting familiar with APIs, it may not seem as helpful as it should be. So if you look at Wikipedia, what I was able to pick out a couple of days ago was it states that it's a set of functions, procedures, and methods or classes that are used by programs to request services either from the operating system or software libraries or any other service provider that can be run on a computer. Technically, that's pretty accurate. I don't know if that would help anybody looking at APIs for the very first time. Another example of an API definition that I was able to recently see as a trend in most sort of product companies that offer API testing. They mentioned it to be somewhat simpler than what Wikipedia has. And their message is APIs are the connecting tissue between different systems or layers of an application. My perspective on this really is trying to keep it simple, right? So when I think of APIs, I just think of it in terms of seamless connectivity. So for those who are not very familiar with APIs and are just getting started with automation and even thinking about API testing, start off with that common definition. And then as you advance your career and your understanding of APIs, definitely go with either the product company's definition or what Wikipedia has. So an important question or topic of discussion here is why should I worry about APIs as a tester? And really, why should I test with APIs? So what we've tried to capture here on this particular slide is talk about three different buckets that identify the impact or the reasons why testers need to be familiar with the concept of APIs and also leverage their automation and testing capabilities into using APIs. The first very obvious thing I think as a tester we all should be aware about are the industry trends. And if you have done any research recently or in the past few months as well, you would have noticed that a lot of the systems that are now being developed, their architecture leverages microservices. And a key foundation of microservices are APIs. You obviously are familiar with the power of the internet and all of the smart devices in our homes, in our cars, on us through watches and so forth. All of those essentially IoTs, the core needs of those connected devices are satisfied primarily by the use of APIs. So if you get into a situation where your engagement or your project deals with IoTs, you will definitely be dealing with APIs in that front as well. And then finally, tied to those IoTs and wearables that I'm talking about as well, cars, phones, watches, so forth and so on. All of that is collecting data, and as we know, AI and ML are coming in, trying to help analyze, help flush out, and make sense out of all of this data. Uh, the core highway where or how this particular data actually gets collected from these devices, from different systems, from different equipment, is through the use of APIs. The second category is around engineering, particularly in agile teams today. So as you guys are probably already familiar with, the whole concept of shifting left with testing, with delivering products, enabling the teams to get faster feedback in terms of defects observed, in terms of being able to test sooner, in terms of being able to integrate and leverage tools from developers. A lot of that involves leveraging APIs that are created and not necessarily having to wait on the UI front to be able to provide that feedback and defects observed or concerns from the testing roles sooner. So the shift left mechanism is definitely a core component that can be supported if people start using and leveraging APIs as part of their testing strategies. As I was saying earlier, also, not having to wait on UIs and not having to think about end user workflows, and being able to share information, to be able to identify information, be able to test. Using a non-UI platform such as APIs would work and be very beneficial to developers as well. It is part of their capabilities, obviously, to look at code and understand code far more efficiently, which helps us be put in an advantage where we can now be integrated tighter with the development team, with helping to troubleshoot issues by leveraging APIs as much as possible as well. And then finally, things that I personally like is low maintenance, low overhead. So by leveraging APIs, you do open up the opportunity to manage your changes very effectively and easily. The level of changes that you may have to do when you are doing test automation using APIs, the effort that goes into its maintenance and avoidance of flakiness within your scripts is far more lower and much easier to go ahead and manage. Uh, Finally, the third bucket I always think about the advantages or reasons why we should leverage APIs is all about test confidence. If you think about the primary way why, or primary reason why testers are critical to a delivery team, it's all because we are the ones who instill the confidence in a product that is finally or ultimately being delivered, right? So for us to be able to provide that level of confidence in the testing, in the expected behavior of the applications, by providing it through a speed of execution, meaning you could do it much faster, your results could be seen much sooner, your changes may be seen much sooner, compared to the traditional approach of testing through the UI. That adds a lot of benefit in terms of being able to offer this level of confidence with much higher speed, right? Which ultimately also helps your entire team get your product to market faster. The other aspect of it is because you can create scripts much faster, you can manage it more effectively, you can expand it much more easily. That gives you a sense and ability to also expand the speed with which you add coverage in your testing. And all of this, is a win-win situation where traditionally compared to UI efforts, where you have to spend a lot of effort, make sure that the flakiness of all of the UI based challenges are removed. uh, you can gain a lot of speed in terms of being able to do more with the limited time we are traditionally given with in terms of testing as well. So following up, just to talk and bring this into context of automation, right? Obviously, Katalon is a test automation solution, uh, and one of the key things that I think primarily the majority of the audience in the webinar today are focused on is either adopting automation or looking at and thinking about how can you add efficiency into your automation strategy. So APIs becomes a core foundation for allowing you to continue evolving, maturing, and adding efficiency into your automation strategy. It's a critical part, in my opinion, for automated tests because it can keep up or cope with the shorter release cycles that are being demanded by the product owners, by the engineers, and then also being able to assist in supporting the increased amount of changes that are being implemented into the uh, application under test. And all of this really is to support the urgency and the need of the business to get to market faster, to make changes and bring those changes to market faster. And as testers, we can leverage APIs to help us bypass the issues of speed, really, and also a more granular approach to testing, looking directly at the code per se, without really adding in any additional overhead in terms of flakiness or breaking things by changing and making changes at a high pace. Also, as I was mentioning, all of the test automation that you do that leverages more of APIs and code level versus UI components and attributes translates to much less maintenance effort when it comes to making changes to scripts and such, which is why it's gaining momentum and has already gained momentum, really quickly becoming the preferred choice for agile and DevOps teams. Also, something to keep in mind is, from a definition perspective, we are continuing to mention and talk about API testing, but when most of us are probably testing web and mobile applications. So keep in mind that when we say APIs, what it means in that context is that they are the same as web services. So API testing really could be thought about also as automated tests on these web services. So here's a quick look at some of the data that we have seen in terms of the adoption rate of APIs and how teams are performing API testing. This is something that was mentioned in the state of APIs in the 2019 report, and I have a link at the bottom of this slide where you can go and download the entire report in detail. But something that caught my eye over here was, if you look at the data, if you each of the bars in this chart identify the average size of an organization and where they are in terms of leveraging APIs for testing. The different color codes that you see on the right represent where they are in sort of their adoption and application of API testing. And what was interesting to me was, almost all of the organizations, close to 91%, are either doing it already or are actively pursuing to introduce API testing. So it just sort of reflects the trend that the industry is moving towards. And for those of us who are not yet doing API testing, it's going to be very important for you to acquire and build that skill set very quickly to remain current and to be able to bring efficiency and value to the team. Uh, Another interesting data point that I wanted to share with the audience today also was this information that uh, you can also go out and get from the State of DevOps report that was done in 2018. This is one of the largest and most active reports that has been going on for the last 8 to 10 years, where uh, uh, the organizations are looking at enterprises and different teams who are either attempting or trying to attempt the implementation of DevOps tool chains and processes within their teams. And what the report actually does is it categorizes the people who are surveyed, the teams that are surveyed, into these four broad buckets: elite, high, medium, and low. And really, you can find more details about what each of those definitions are by simply Googling for State of DevOps Report 2018 and being able to download that report. But essentially, what this is saying is the amount of manual work is reducing faster and faster. And the more mature and the more efficient a team appears to be delivering their products with, the less and less manual efforts are continuing to be part of the core activities of the team. And you can see the testing activities by far, the rate with which things are changing for us as testers, and how much of tool enablement is being available for us is phenomenal. And the goal of every engineering team is not be categorized in that low performant bucket that you see on the screen, right? Everybody wants to quite literally shift left in this table as well. So trying to get to the elite status, which sort of reflects the maximum efficiency and velocity of your team collectively, you can see that testing is only 10% of your activities are more manual focused. So having shared the insights about why API testing and automation of API testing is important, we want to jump into the demo that Siraj will do here shortly. Before we get into the actual demo, we wanted to sort of give everybody a context of what Siraj is going to be showing. So in real startup fashion, what we chose to do is to demonstrate a workflow that I think a lot of you may already be familiar with if you have been using Katalon for some time now. Earlier this year, we launched the Katalon store, and one of the key demos that we want to do over here is walk you through the process of getting a plugin published, approved, and being applied on the Katalon store, and then also having the ability to install and uninstall that plugin. So typically, if for those who don't know, the Katalon store is a marketplace where teams that have created custom keywords or activities within Katalon Studio can quickly choose to publish their updates or customized feature, and have that either available for free for other members in the community, testing community, to use, or work with Katalon Studio to have it set up where it's sold for a nominal fee. So what we are intending to do in our demo here is basically go through a visual comparison of an automation script that goes through this particular life cycle and then go through the same life cycle using APIs. And for you to be able to observe how relatively quick it is to actually use APIs to perform the same validation and workflow without having to deal with a whole lot of UIs and waits and rendering issues that we typically encounter. So the typical workflow is to publish a plugin, approve a plugin, install a plugin, and then verify that installed plugin. If you look at it side by side, right, what we've tried to do is leverage or demonstrate to you as well that essentially by leveraging an API, you are not only able to bypass the UI screens, but the relative speed with which you can perform that activity just improves so vastly that you could actually then build far more complex workflows and validation scenarios, and essentially improve your coverage by even decreasing time in most situations. So having said that, I'm going to switch over and have Sirajuddin share his screen and walk us through the demo. Siraj, are you there?
Yeah, yeah, Moshe. Just let me share my screen.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So hey everybody. Hey everybody, and thank you, Moshe, for sharing such beautiful insights about API testing, the importance of API testing, and in web testing. So without taking much time, let me switch to the demo part. So as
Siraj, we cannot hear you. I think Siraj is facing some technical issues with his microphone. Let's give him a few minutes to jump back on.
hello, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So is my screen is visible?
I am not seeing it right now.
Let me share my.
Yep, we see it now.
So yeah. So hello everyone, and thank you Mush for sharing such beautiful insights on API testing, and the stats that you have presented is seriously awesome. So without taking much time, let me go through the demo part. So as Mush described there, that that how you can leverage the APIs to improve your build time, your test time. So there are two test cases, which is install a publish plugin and install a plugin. Here you can see that how the dependent test cases has been reduced, and we have also two different suits to compare the performance. Let me run it. So currently it is launching my test suite, and here is the test suite which runs only on, which is not leveraging the APIs. After that, after the test completion, we'll look at the Katalon analytics, where we can compare the results. So This is the Katalon store, which we are using to demonstrate the uh, the difference in performance. So now it is running. So while it is running, let me let uh, let me tell you that how I'm taking this forward. So after that, we'll talk about uh, we'll talk about how you can run your tests in parallel at LambdaTest platform, and after and then we'll talk about the features and the offerings which is given which has been provided by LambdaTest. So here you can see that all the test cases which is not leveraging API is running on the web. So definitely it will take more time. And as Mo suggested that the heavier the test cases has much more chances of flakiness and giving false positive. So let me open the Katalon analytics. So here you can see that the bills are running, and I have I have tried the demo test case before. So here you can see that here you can here you can see that difference when you are using APIs with APIs and UI, and when you are not using APIs for web without when you are using UI test only. The UI test is still running. So so till it is executing. So I guess there is some issue. I'm just still the test is executing. Let me refresh the page. So guys, let me reopen the Katalon again.
For those members on the webinar, this is a classic issue we have, right? Where when you're presenting something, obviously things go wrong. So it always happens. It happens to the best of us, and I know Siraj, you have seen this happen several times before because you're not flustered by it. Please bear with
Yeah,
us.
I have just ran. Yeah, I have just ran this test just an hour ago, and everything is working like charm. But I
Yeah,
don't know.
and I'm glad
It's
that
the market slow.
the testers on this in the audience will know that this is how the developers talk to us, right? It's like, hey, it works on my machine. So yeah, go ahead, restart it, and hopefully it'll have reset the null pointer exception for you. I see from the comments a lot of the testers agree with me. So it's great.
So let's hope for the best. So till it is restarting. So as you can see here that that the test which is not utilizing API is almost taking the double, almost taking the 30% more time to execute on the grid, and the chances of the flakiness is quite high, and such kind of errors may also occur that we have faced today. So still it is processing and resetting it to its previous state. Yeah. So guys, do you want me to rerun the test cases? So let me rerun it again. And let's wait for a while it is till it is till it is launched. The Chrome browser might be that was the issue.
So one suggestion, I think I'm just looking at the chat room with the audience, Suraj, is in the worst case, if the error comes back again from the UI aspect, you can switch into running it from the API mode only, and show that to the audience, right? Because I think what I'm gathering from the chat room is definitely everybody has felt this issue, which is great, and using APIs will be far better in that regard as well.
Yes, of course. So I guess now the things are working. I guess now the things are working smooth. So let's wait for a while till it completes, and then I'll run the test which is not leveraging the APIs. So for such cases, let's say if you have only one browser and you want to run the test in parallel in local system, for such cases we came into the existence. So that's why we had created the cloud grade so that DevOps do not have to manage lots of combinations and do not have to maintain the pain uh, that the DevOps face while maintaining the in-house grade. So the test has been completed. Let me run install a plugin UI test. So I think now things are working perfectly. So by the way, you can see the results here that the web test, the test which is not utilizing API is taking around 3 minutes, and the test which is utilizing API for web testing is taking around 1 minute 17 seconds. So till the time it is executing, let's have a look at the collection that we have created to run the test in parallel at LambdaTest script. So here are the test suites that I am using to run the scenario at LambdaTest script on different combinations. So let me execute it. Yeah. Now the test which I have executed at LambdaTest has been started to execute. Let's move to the LambdaTest. And before going deep in the offerings and features provider test, let me tell you that to configure Katalon, hello. Am I audible?
We can hear you now, Siraj. We just had in between, as you were closing out your session, we were hearing like a robot voice. It was breaking up a little bit.
Okay. So we have executed the test suite that we have created for the Lambda test. So to demonstrate that how you can run your test collection or test suites in parallel, and to leverage the offering of cross-browser testing from Katalon. So let's go to the Lambda's automation page.
Hey, Siraj. One of the key things
Yeah.
that a lot of people are asking about is if you could do a quick 2-minute
Yeah.
overview of what Lambda test is. I think that will help
Yeah.
everybody understand this.
So yeah. Yeah, Mosh. So before going much deeper about the features and offering of the Lambda test, let me introduce let me give a brief introduction about what about LambdaTest. So basically, the LambdaTest is a cloud-based Selenium grid and across browser testing platform where you can run your test scripts on 2000 plus browser OS combinations, and by leveraging the parallel the parallel running capability, the parallel running functionality, you can cut down your build time significantly. So to integrate, to integrate with Katalon and LambdaTest, you have to configure two settings in your remote connection. That is, one is hub URL, which you can get from here, and other one is the capability generator. So capability generator gives you the desired capability object. Let me show you. So let's say if you want to run your test on Mojave and Firefox and on Chrome 64, then it will automatically generate the capability object for different languages. So you can get your keys for capability from here and the values from here. So this is the dashboard for the automation user, and this is the build name that I have ran. So here you can see that the test, and you can use filters to see the errors. So let me open up the logs. So let's say if you want to see that how your test is performing on the grid, so you can view the video from here. If the test is running, you can also view the live video directly from here as well. And if your test has an exception, like we have in Safari here, for example, for the demonstration purpose, we had created that exception that element is not visible. So in that case, we collect all the exceptions and present them here, and you can also view the screenshot that on which page it came, and you can also download the screenshot as well. And if you want to report it to your dev team, then you can directly mark it as bug on your favorite project management tool or backtracking tool. So here is the command logs. So in command logs, we are capturing all the commands that has been executed on the grid, and this we are also taking a screenshot for each and every command. So let's say if you are running your test in local, so you have to do an extra bit of coding to capture the screenshot for each and every command. But at LambdaTest, you just need to enable one capability, which is visual. And here you can see the parameters that has been received by the grid, and here is the response, which is useful when your test is breaking. And this is the network log. So in network logs, you get the insight about the resources, that how much time a resource is taking to get loaded or rendered in the browsers. So here is the logs, which is Selenium logs, in case if you want to see that how the things are, how the grid is behaving, then you can get you can see it from here. You can also download it from here for your record keeping. And here is the metadata. Metadata is basically the basic information about your test, and you can also download all the screenshot that has been generated for your test, and you can also download videos for your record keeping. So one more thing I would like to share with you. if your web application is behind the firewall, so you cannot access directly. So to solve that problem, we have one more solution, that is tunnel. And here you can see the command to run the tunnel. First of all, you have to download the executable file, and you just need to go into the directory in the terminal, and you just need to copy that command and paste it. Then we'll create a connection between your PC and with LambdaTest script, so that you don't need to go through the whitelisting process. And also LambdaTest has documentation for the languages that we support, and especially for the Katalon, that how you can integrate your Katalon test suites with LambdaTest. And if you're using any kind of CI/CD tool, then you can leverage your existing tool to integrate with LambdaTest. So this is the features and the offering of the LambdaTest. So now my friend Mush would like to share some benefits of using Katalon for API and web testing combined. Now, Mush,
Thank you, Suraj.
it's over to you.
Yep, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, guys. So you should be able to see my summary real quick. So in general, really, one of the key questions that does come up is, if I am working on a project that is using APIs, is there a benefit of using Katalon for that as well? And this type of question pretty much comes in from the older mindset, where there weren't tools that allowed you to perform different types of tests together. So I think, hey Siraj, can you go on mute, please? I think you're still in. Okay, I think I got it. Sorry, guys. So as I was saying, the reason why those questions typically stem is because a lot of the teams traditionally think about using different tools for different types of tests, right? And it's still very true when you think about, say, security tests, where you're thinking of performance tests, and so forth, when you almost have the mindset that you need a different tool. What the Katalon team has been working aggressively towards is, in order for us to be able to leverage the sort of the bridging between a lot of the benefits that APIs offer to even speed up traditional UI testing. The mindset was, what can we do to actually bring those two types of tests together? Because one of the key trends, as you've seen, that is evolving with most of the enterprises and the applications that are being delivered now, is they have a component of UI capabilities, but then also a heavy focus on APIs, right? And if you were to use and try to test for them independently, you would sort of lose out on the integration capabilities and the speed benefits, while your UI coverage, which is important, would be left in sort of like a lower priority simply because of its inability to keep up with speed. So the team at Katalon, and of course hearing the trends and also feedback from the users of the tool, what was decided was to say, how can we effectively and efficiently build that bridge? Which is why what the team has done is essentially combine that together, right? So as far as the feature benefit that you can see is API testing and the capability to perform API testing is simply a built-in capability right now within Katalon. And what that means really is you don't have to go and get a separate tool to perform API testing. You can actually do it within the same tool that most of the teams are already familiar with. What you will see if you have not explored the API capabilities, testing capabilities of Katalon yet, is you would see there would be very specific fields and characteristics that are unique to API tests that are definitely available in the UI as well. So things such as API authentication and so forth, that capability you will see is already built out of the box within the tool that supports you to do all of that now, right? And then in addition to that, I think the other advantage you would see is when you create a test suite, or if you create a test case also, you can call these API tests created independently as part of your test step as well. So you basically are bridging that capability. So a very simple example could be, a login aspect, right? If you have a workflow that talks about just verifying whether certain privileges and capabilities are correctly uh, displayed on a screen based on your user credentials. The traditional way of testing that would be to go through back and forth and do a repeat run uh, using a lookup database or something to that effect. You could very well speed that up by using APIs, by requesting a change to the same credential, for example, to now give you new privileges, and then validate those changes are occurring pretty quickly as one scenario. The other one could be, deleting capabilities, right? How soon can that be done? So API is based on the core nature and how uh, sensitive to speed they are, opens up various capabilities and opens up new ideas for us as testers to be able to apply when we think about how we define our tests and scenarios. The other aspect that I personally like also is Katalon has both a UI and script mode, and what that essentially means is it's a mechanism to allow new users of Katalon who are more traditional and used to manual tests and test steps uh, to be able to adopt the concepts of automation and thereby benefit from the speed that automation testing offers, while it also gives you the script mode, which is more geared towards the advanced programmer professionals who don't necessarily need to look at test steps and are very comfortable looking at code and deciphering what it means. Hence, what it does is it gives you the ability to learn quickly, and it has the power to then be able to be extended to more advanced usage and programming techniques. In addition, I think when we started with the demo, I talked a little bit about what the Katalon store is, but essentially the other advantage that Katalon Studios does offer you is the use of that store. And as the tool is picking up momentum and popularity among different team members all over the world, a lot of teams are stepping up and sharing what they have customized as plugins for the use of other members, right? So you will definitely be getting a lot of solutions coming up for types of problems around API testing that you may be trying to solve. And if somebody else has already solved it, chances are that it's already available as a plugin. So you'll get a lot of benefit of not having to reinvent the wheel each time, and more so focus on solving the problem per se using tools. And then ultimately, what all of this really means is, you have a lower learning and adoption curve because people are used to and familiar with a particular tool type. There's fewer integration headaches to have to manage, where you have to think about, okay, if I'm using, a secondary tool such as Postman, how do I get the data and validations from there to be leveraged in my UI tests, and I'm using Katalon now, how do I bring that over, and so forth. And then the other advantage also, especially from a team lead and product owner perspective, right, is when you're using a single tool, you're getting consolidated and centralized reports, and it covers both API tests that are being run as well as UI tests that are being run. Right, so comparing to other tools, having a single tool as a strategy is definitely very, very beneficial. All right, so that brings us to the end of our discussion. We have about 5 minutes. Let me quickly look at some of the questions that may be raised from our audiences. The most popular one is about the recording of this session, and the easy answer to that is yes, absolutely. This will be available for distribution and sharing with everyone. So please stay tuned. You'll get a link in your email very shortly based on the email you've registered with. There's been questions about on to test APIs. There's definitely a lot of tutorials that give you walk you through step-by-step instructions. I would strongly advise you to use the community chat forums as well as the documentation links on Katalon's website to look for that. There's also talk about putting in some sample demos on GitHub, so stay tuned for that as well. There's another question about running mobile web automation on LambdaTest. Siraj, can you answer that one? I'm not sure about LambdaTest. If it's a Selenium grid, does it support mobile devices as well? Are you on? Maybe we can have that answered offline through our forums and such. Awesome. I'm trying to see any other questions that get put out there. There's talks about API testing compared to competitors like Karate APIs and SOAP UI. For one, SOAP is a very prominent protocol per se, right? The one advantage I can tell you right off the bat is Katalon supports both SOAP and RESTful, right? And we know RESTful is the more popular one, and it's more prominent across enterprises. Mobile automation definitely is also supported with Katalon, and you can LambdaTest may have support for it as well. I think that brings us to the conclusion of all of the common questions. Obviously our team is available to answer more questions on the forum, so please feel free to continue to collaborate in that community. And again, thank you for attending. We will continue on with more sessions and webinars going in, and look forward to having you attend in the future as well. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.